I know you've talked a lot about Bitcoin in the past. I'm curious what you think about it right now, and how it plays into all of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I love Bitcoin. I've held it for years. I wrote about it when I was at NYU like 7 years ago when people thought I actually got like, there was my international finance class. They were talking about Bitcoin and it was the optional lecture the day before Thanksgiving. And I was like one of the three people who showed up. And I was so pissed that they made it the optional lecture. Like
Right.
everything else is mandatory. You get graded for attendance. Like today we're talking about Bitcoin, so nobody needs to show up. And I'm like, dude, this is the most important thing happening in international finance. And they're like, who owns Bitcoin? I'm like, me. Bitcoin's at 300. Literally laughed at. Like they're like, you actually fucking own some of this shit. Like that's and so I love Bitcoin as a concept. You know, a piece of software is a new. You know, I'm software eating the world. To me, that's the biggest innovation with the internet. And so currency now it's paper dollars. Now dollars on our smartphone, but it's always been changing. Before it was like rocks, diamonds, gold. We would barter.
Yep.
You know, to me, it's just what is kind of money. And I see Bitcoin coming at this from totally left field of an algorithm that's a piece of code that's limited, that's decentralized. Like it has all these new attributes. It's almost like gold 2.0 of this amazing store of value, but it's limited. We can't mine more of it after that 21 million mark. And me moving a rock around the world is really hard, but moving a piece of code with a click, even if it costs $50 on the Bitcoin network, is way cheaper than moving $10,000 worth of gold halfway around the world. And so I look at this as a much better, you know, in terms of how humans store value over time, money. We have like dollars, we have stocks, we have real estate, we have gold, we have jewelry, we have art, collectibles, sneakers. That's another big thing I'm into. But
Wine.
I think Bitcoin comes into this equation. And I'm like, okay, this algorithm that's like decentralized, they can't like this to me is going to take a huge chunk of that money ecosystem. And so my guess is gold is worth $7 trillion worth of gold. Most of that's held for investment in jewelry, also investment. If Bitcoin hits 7 trillion, you're looking at $300,000 Bitcoin with 21 million. So I think, but Bitcoin's better than gold. So I think Bitcoin becomes this new type of gold in our economy, and the value of that inflation hedge of a new gold is 15 to 20 trillion, which puts Bitcoin at about a million a coin. And that's kind of like how I see this all up, like a million in US dollar terms. But soon we're not going to be talking about Tesla in US dollars. We'll be quoting it in Bitcoin, maybe,
Right. Right.
you know?
And so do you think that
Yeah.
that we need another, you know, another asset like that? Because are there problems with the way that you know, or you know, the access to gold or something like that that creates a reason for Bitcoin to exist, or is it just, you know, we can always use another asset like that that's got some sort of, you know, fixed intrinsic value to it because it's a, you know, a set amount that can be mined, and there's, you know, I'm just
Yeah, fuck. I had a really good quote that I'm trying to think of. Oh, this quote about Bitcoin, that it was like the most successful economic experiment ever, or like it was already a great success. Like it started as this
absolutely
economic.
right.
And so what I was saying about markets kind of and just being a student of what's happening, like I've stopped trying to be like, oh, could something else replace Bitcoin or what's this? I'm like, Bitcoin is gaining market share in this financial monetary ecosystem faster than anything else. So I better start doing my homework on why that is, you know, and just being a student of that data that's coming out that's saying Bitcoin is moving twice as much money as PayPal. And so, and it was created, you know, within half the time. And it's so I think Bitcoin has been this wildly successful thing. I don't know. I'm curious. Do you own Bitcoin? Are you a
No,
believer? What's your take on it?
I have owned Bitcoin before. I don't own Bitcoin right now, but you know, obviously, it's a really, really fascinating thing to me that I feel like I don't know enough about. You know, but I when I think about the, you know, I've heard you talk about it and compare it to gold in that way, and that makes inherent sense to me. You know, I mean, I understand. I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy studying is like the idea of, you know, currency and just money and all these different ways in history that we've, you know, kind of had money and you know, used paper money and coins and, you know, metals and all these different things to transact, right? And of course, when you have like a fiat currency like we do now, like the only thing that gives that any value is the fact that we all agree that there's value to it, and, you know, the government behind it. There is no reason that I can see where if we all agree that this is valuable, that doesn't work out and make sense, you know, because that's the whole concept of money, right? I mean, gold is only valuable because we think it's worth something.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a
And my
finite
kind of
amount of
theory
it,
is,
but we still have to like believe that it's valuable.
And our belief in what's valuable has changed over time
Yes.
based on what's the best mechanism of transferring value.
Right.
So I think that trust in Bitcoin it's going to have to grow and get there, and it's going to take a long time. But to me, like Square, so this is another way to frame my Bitcoin thesis. I think Jack Dorsey and Square and Cash App will single-handedly make Bitcoin take over because they have 33 million people on Cash App, growing like crazy. They're making it with a click of a button. You can buy Bitcoin. Jack Dorsey, also CEO of Twitter, one of the most important dudes in the world, is saying this is the, built for the internet currency. And Jack Dorsey is a hacker. Like, that's what I love about this dude. Like, he's coding shit himself, owner, operator, founder. But you think about Square's position. Like, why do we need Bitcoin? Square is paying like 3% to credit card companies for nothing on every single transaction. If you set up an online business, Stripe, Shopify, they're charging you 3%. They're not making that money. It's going to Visa, MasterCard, and all these pipes of the financial system, just taking this massive toll. So what Jack Dorsey's doing with Bitcoin is saying, wait, if we use this currency, we can build what's called a layer 2 solution. He's personally investing in all these apps that make it so you can like transact really cheaply and quickly on the Bitcoin network kind of for micro transactions. And all of a sudden you have 33 million wallets that are able to do all these transactions in Bitcoin, and the transactions mean we can avoid that 2.9% fee. So what did Cash App just do? They just dropped merch. They give you 25% off if you bought that merch within the Cash App. They're already making you pay just within their own ecosystem. So to me, this is a real world example of one of the most biggest world changing financial companies who has a huge incentive to use Bitcoin and strip out all the financial pipes and put in Bitcoin because they're going to save 3% on $50 billion move last quarter. Yeah. They're going to give half to their customers and keep the other half. So
yeah, I mean, that's all you need, right? Like, you just need a real market using it to transact in a real significant way. And I think we're starting to really have that, and probably will have that more significantly in the coming years. And so I've been really considering getting back into it, and I think I'm going to now after this conversation, just because it's also
not financial advice.
No,
I never give financial advice.
Of course, and I certainly don't either. That's not my show. But I also think it's kind of another one of these bets on the future, bets on the change that we're talking about. It's, why not participate in it a little bit? And if it works out, in an amazing way. And if it doesn't, then, I mean, I don't think anyone should be playing around in that world unless you can, you can afford to lose your shirt, right? Like that's always how I've seen it.
But I love that you're scheming on it, honestly, because that's one thing I think is interesting. And I'd be curious to get your take on like your kind of investing, your journey to becoming an investor as well. Because I think that's so cool. And like the fact that you kind of I see that you get what you don't know in some ways. And like to me, you're already 10 steps ahead of everybody on Wall Street by just being like, I kind of don't know shit. I'm just going to dabble, try and learn. And I love that mentality. When I see that, I'm like, bro, you're going to go so far. And like, that's exactly what we kind of need, That's how I started with Bitcoin. Put $50 in, and like now I give a shit. Now I'm reading all the news. Now I'm following it. I don't care if I lose $50,
right.
But that education is going to be worth thousands.